bread machine is back again. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Semi-Homesteading with Abby. Thank you all so much for being here. Today we are using my handy dandy bread machine yet again, and today I'm gonna make sourdough sandwich bread. I've done this several times now. It turns out amazing. It's the perfect middle ground between having to do a full sourdough loaf with all the steps in between and doing just classic sandwich bread. This is like the perfect middle ground where it has a little bit of sourdough taste, but it's also easy and quick to assemble and to bake. Well, technically it bakes for almost like 4 hours. The whole process is 4 hours. But I don't have to do any work in that 4 hours. It takes me just a few minutes to assemble it all, press a button, and I'm off. So that's what we're doing today. I have my sourdough starter. It's all nice and doubled. Now you can use a freshly fed sourdough starter, which is what I'm gonna do today. I've also used discard for this. There's two different options in the recipe book. One for fresh and one for discard. So that could go either way, but I find that the fresh works a little bit better. I will explain more about the bread machine as this video goes along because, as you know, if you've watched my channel, I'm obsessed with this bread machine. The recipe that I'm using comes straight out of the recipe book that came with the bread machine, so that's also easy. So I'm gonna throw this together. I'll walk you through the ingredients, the amounts, all the information, talk about the bread machine, show you the results, and do a little taste test. Enjoy. Okay, first thing we want to do before any recipe is gather all the ingredients. This has burned me many times where I don't gather it all at the beginning. I gather it as I go and it wastes time. So get everything together at the beginning. This is a very simple recipe. It's just olive oil, flour, salt, yeast, water, and your starter. So these are the ingredients. We're also getting out our handy dandy kitchen scale because they will say in the recipe book how many cups and tablespoons and teaspoons of things that you're gonna need, but it is very easy to go awry with just measurements, so I always recommend using the kitchen scale. Now, I made a 2-pound loaf, which is the biggest option in this bread machine, and that calls for 135 grams of freshly made sourdough starter. Then I add 240 grams of room temperature water. Now, I'm gonna list out the entire recipe below because there are variations if you did the refrigerated old sourdough starter, if you use bread flour, if you use all-purpose flour. So there's different amounts based on what you're using. I used all-purpose flour, so I added 500 grams of flour. It is 1 1/4 tablespoons of olive oil and 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. For those ones, they're pretty standard measurements, so it is okay to just use tablespoons and teaspoons on those. Everything else, definitely measure out with your kitchen scale. But now, if you were to use bread flour, it would be 488 grams, but all-purpose is 500. So slightly more all-purpose flour than bread flour. Again, I'll list everything out in the description based on your variation. If you're using the old refrigerated starter or discard, then that affects the amounts of flour you use and the amount of yeast you use, because if you're using fresh starter, it gives a little more yeast and a little more lift. It will rise better than if you're using discard. So in that case, you would need to use more yeast. I hope that all makes sense. But again, I'll list it all out, but just know I used the fresh starter, and so I had to use less yeast. Okay, 3 hours and 51 minutes left. I will be back then. We'll have it cool down and then we can slice it. Okay, while it's baking, I wanted to show you a little bit about this machine because I've done multiple videos on this bread machine. I've tested it for about 1.5 years now, a little bit over 1.5 years. And I have absolutely loved this machine. I think it makes bread making so much less intimidating, so much easier. And this one in particular I found to be really good because it has a lot of preset menu options and it comes with a recipe book like I was mentioning. This is the Amazon listing for it. I just wanted to scroll through it because it has so many great features that it lists out. And also it's on sale right now. So if you're watching this semi close to the release date of the video, just know it's on sale. It's a 29-in-1 bread machine, so it has 29 different things that you can do with it. There's also like a homemade option so that you can go and knead your dough, and there's all these different settings, which honestly I'm still trying to figure out and explore, because I have thought that the regular menu items are so good that I've stuck to those mostly, so I'm still exploring the homemade version. But this just does so much and is so easy to use, and really if you want to make bread but you feel like it's intimidating, I would highly recommend this machine. It is going to be linked in my description below. Just know I get a small commission off of that link if you do end up purchasing it. Doesn't make it any more expensive for you or anything. This is obviously no pressure, but this is a great machine, and if you are intimidated by bread making, it does not have to be this way. Check out this bread machine. Okay, I had a piece off the corner. That is so good. It's perfect sandwich bread. I can't wait to slice this up throughout the week, make myself a nice sandwich. That is great. Highly recommend. All right, everyone, well, that is all for this week's video. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot. I hope this was useful. If it is, leave a comment. Also comment any other videos you would like to see, either with the bread machine or without. I'm always trying to be a better chef, make things from scratch. So let me know what you want me to try out, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.